Hey friends, I am Dr. D. It is so good to be back. So good to be here to chat with y'all today. So I figured I would come on and do a quick video. I wanted to share with y'all a little bit about what's been going on, kind of how I've been doing, and then of course, because always, the Lord loves to give me words literally in the midst of my own circumstances or when I'm just coming out of them or whatever the case may be, but He entrusts them to me. And so I want to share them with you. So today I want to talk with you about when God destroys your life. Now, that sounds a little dramatic. I will admit that, okay? Just hang on with me for a little bit. I was, first of all, for those of you who I talked to, you know, I was not feeling well physically for a little while. I was just getting over a bug, a cold, whatever it was. But it took a good like 2-3 weeks to kind of bounce back. And you know, when you're physically drained and not feeling well, that's when the enemy likes to come with all those low blows and those attacks and just kind of kick you while you're down. And so right kind of in the midst of that, and then right after that, it was more of an emotional attack. I just physically didn't feel well. I was recovering just fine, but then an emotional attack kind of came, and it was where I was starting to basically have my own version of an emotional, psychological, and spiritual temper tantrum. So let me explain this. So the enemy was attacking, and then I think my flesh was just rising up because I just was not feeling well. And basically what was going on is I have been in a season, and I've talked about this a ton, in a season of intense pruning. God has just been pulling stuff away from me left and right. So many things that I had to sit down and literally jot them down so that I wouldn't forget, because I was like, God, like, I mean, I could just say all the things, but that's not exactly accurate, but it feels like all the things. So I'm like, let me write this stuff down. But I was just feeling kind of overwhelmed, exhausted, a bit disconnected, just frustrated with life. And so today, if you are in a place where you feel like, what is going on, God? I gave you my yes, and now it feels like my life is going upside down. Or, you know, I've committed more to you in this regard, and now it feels like these parts of my life are blowing up or getting worse, or, you know, you promised me certain things and I don't see them. I, in fact, see the extreme opposite. If that's where you are and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, frustrated, depressed, whatever the case may be, then this is your word. So settle on in. I got all my fall accoutrement, right? All my stuff over here. My candle, it's Smores. Oh my gosh, it's putting me in such a good mood because it's kind of late in the evening. And so I'm tired, but I wanted to rally because I got to get this word out to y'all. The Lord will not let me rest until I get it out. So I got my S'mores candle going. It smells delicious. All my little fall stuff over here. It's my happy place. But anyway, so in the past few months, God has literally made me give up. I had 3 jobs, and I've talked about this before. I had a main job, and then I had 2 part-time gigs. And the part-time gigs brought in about 20,000 or so a year. And I don't say that to be like, ooh, 20,000 or just 20,000 or whatever. That was the part-time gigs. But either way, I don't know your financial circumstances, but for me, that's a lot of money. So God was like, no, you cannot do those 2 jobs. You need to resign from them. So I still have my full-time job. I was in a place where I was just getting ready to get promoted from the job that I was in, which would have been probably about another 20,000. And God said, no, you cannot have that job. Y'all, this was like back to back. So here we go, $40,000 out the door, okay? And again, I don't know your circumstances. For me, that is a lot of money. That is a huge blow. I am someone who is very efficient, and I enjoy excelling at my work, and I enjoy getting promotions and taking on new tasks. It's just part of my identity, and we're going to get to that. That was part of the problem. That was the biggest part of the problem. But I also find a lot of security in finances. And again, that was part of the problem, and we'll get to that. So back to back, I'm like, God, are you for real? Like, really? But okay, if you say so, fine, right? But he did not stop there. in this same amount of time, I would say all of this happened probably within 6 weeks, a very small amount of time. God then also told me to start to come away from some of the friends that I had. Not because there was anything wrong with them. Perhaps there were some things that was their own stuff that he needed to work out with them, and so he wanted us to have some space. I don't know, but he kind of took me away from a lot of the friends that I was relying on and depending on to get me through the current season of singleness that I find myself in. So I'm like, these are my girlfriends, like these are my homies, these are my companions in this world right now, and he had me come away from them. So I'm like, okay, God, my money, my friends, okay, surely we're done now, okay? Here you go, I've given you my yes, take my life, you know, take my sacrifice, and God was still not done. So then God speaks to me a lot in dreams, and I'm actually going to do a video after this one about a particular dream symbol that he wants me to share with you all, that he also revealed quite a bit to me. So if you're a bit of a dreamer, or you've ever had a dream about cell phones, tune in for that one. But yeah, so then he took the sorority that I was affiliated with. And I was in this sorority for nearly 17 years at this point. It's a big part of my heart. It meant very, very much to me. Yes, so I will leave it at that. But they were, you know, my sorors, they were my friends, they were my sisters. They were with me through so many formative years in college, and just, you know, they've got me through so much. I had to go in and clean out all this stuff out of my house, and pink and green happened to just literally be my favorite colors, but I had a lot of stuff that had a lot of insignia and all that stuff, and had to just get rid of thousands of dollars at this point of we call it nalia, but paraphernalia and all that. So I was like, okay, God, okay, surely this is it. This has absolutely got to be it. Like, what else? All of these things that are important to me, near and dear to me, that mean something to me, okay. But God wasn't finished. So I am also a bit of a busy bee. I have a lot of energy. I do a lot of stuff. I volunteered at my church. I was on several different ministries, and intercessory prayer, and you know, small groups, and you know, a community women's ministry, and just different hobbies. And I would just take on tasks. I would just do a ton of stuff. And imagine this, I already had 3 jobs, and then I was doing all this as well. But my busyness, the stuff that helped me burn off that energy, that also helped me feel like I was achieving, or gave me some sense of mastery, just some sense of like, okay, I'm okay, the world's okay. He was like, and no, you can't have that either. So I was like, okay, all right. You know what, y'all, I was okay for a little while, because I was like, you know what, God, I'm gonna give you these things, I'm gonna give you my yes, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna like multiply what I've lost and shake it up, and like I'm gonna see all these amazing blessings, and they're just gonna be right around the corner. They're gonna be coming. So that didn't happen, and yeah, not to be like dismissive, but that's not how God moved in this particular circumstance. And so now it has been months of me holding on with all these bits of my life gone. I never fully mourned them. I never really got stuck in that. I was just like, okay, God, yes, you have my yes. Didn't focus on it too much, because I was under the assumption that God would immediately turn it around, give me something better, whatever. So 6, 7, 8 months, however long this has been now at this point, it hasn't even been a year. But I got to a place where I started to feel defeated. I'm like, God, I gave you my yes, and my life feels more unbearable, less like I can control anything, less enjoyable in some ways. I'm just like, I gave you my yes. I don't know why things feel this way. And like I said, when you're already down, when you're already kind of going through stuff, that's when the enemy piles it on. And then your own mind gets going, and it's like, well, you know, I could just get, you know, in my head, it's like, I could just go out there and get some jobs. Like, I can make that money, no problem. I could go out there and get these hobbies and volunteer for these things and do these things. I could. right? That is actually part of what God was trying to break off of me. So, like I said, if you've been in a place where you feel like, well, God, I gave you my yes and things feel worse than they were, there's likely a reason for that. So I'm going to share my reason, my experience, what the Lord ministered to me during this season, and what he told me to share with you. So this isn't about what he took from me. This isn't about, oh, woe is me. This isn't about, anything like that. It is very much about the reason why God does these types of things as a way to help you stay strong during your storm, right? As a way to help you stay strong during your season of pruning, and as a way to keep you from feeling like you are just being overlooked by God, mistreated by God, forgotten by God, intentionally hurt by God, any of those types of lies that the enemy likes to try and feed us when we're not feeling like, comfortable in our surroundings. That is why I'm sharing this with you. So God told me a few things about my season that I want to share with you. So ultimately about your season, right? So pruning is the word he gave me, and that is something that Christians say all the time, my season of pruning, right? We hear that absolutely all the time. And I went and I looked up the definition of pruning, and it said removing dead, damaged, or broken parts of a plant. It promotes growth and helps plants grow into a certain configuration that is more ideal for the structural integrity of the plant. Okay, so you can't see my plants right now because of where I'm sitting, but I absolutely love them. I have so many houseplants over there on my little shelf and all of that stuff. But the thing that stuck out to me, and the thing that the Lord ministered to me from this particular definition, was that last little bit. A plant can be made to grow into a certain configuration that is more ideal for the structural integrity of the plant. And so I had never really heard anybody talk about pruning in that sense. They talk about pulling off the dead, removing the old, promoting growth. But this definition says forcing, essentially making a plant grow in a certain configuration that is more ideal for the integrity of the plant, the structural integrity of the plant. And so what God ministered to me is oftentimes when he is pruning us, when he's removing things, it is not a punishment. It is not to make us hurt. It is not to make us suffer. It is because he's the master gardener. We, as the plants, do not belong unto ourselves. Just like plants out in the wild or in a garden or wherever the case may be, if we could, we would just go wherever we feel like it, right? We would grow wild and free and whatever, no problem. But what this is talking about is at times plants have to be pruned and adjusted and changed so that they can actually grow in the way that they were intended to grow, preserving their structural integrity. Structural integrity essentially means that when a storm comes, when wind comes, when rain comes, when harsh elements come, whatever the case may be, the plant is going to be fortified, right? The structure of the plant is going to be able to withstand the elements that it's in, not because the plant just grew that way because it felt like it, but because it was pruned, because all of the dead was removed, all of the things that were damaged and broken were removed, and so now that plant is able to withstand. The structures is sound, right? And so what God ministered to me is if you're in this place where you feel like, God, I gave you my yes, maybe you want to recover from trauma, right? Or maybe you want to forgive your father who broke your heart. Or maybe you want to rebuild a connection with your best friend who abandoned you, or forgive the ex-husband who betrayed you, or make peace with a diagnosis that you've been given, or whatever the case may be. Whatever your situation or circumstance is, when you say yes to God and you hand it over to him, you give him permission as the master gardener of your life. You give him permission as the owner, right, of your being to say, okay, I know what you need to be structurally sound. I know what you need to be able to endure the scorching sun, right? Or the rain that's going to beat down on you. I know that there's going to be a thunderstorm that rolls through your life when you're 43 or whatever the case may be. I know how to make you structurally sound. If we knew that, we would not need a God, right? So when God prunes and he removes things from us, it's so that we will be able to withstand those things. God didn't just take the job from me to be a mean father or to punish me. God was teaching me how to rely on him for my sense of security and not money. God was showing me that he is my provider and not myself. I don't have to run feverishly at breakneck speed, barely able to enjoy my life, because he can make sure that I have what it is that I need, right? God told me to step away from the sorority, and I will likely do a video on this, so stay tuned, comment below if you want to hear this. God told me to step away from the sorority because it's not of him. Point blank, period. People are going to have a problem with that. People are going to say it's community service. People are going to say whatever they're going to say. But every time we meet, there is a certain greeting that we give at the end of our meeting, for example, that is not honoring to God. It's not overtly dishonoring, but if you know scripture, it's taking the scripture and it's twisting it slightly to honor the sorority, right? When we get initiated, there are certain scriptures that are adjusted just enough to where it no longer reflects what it's supposed to reflect. God is replaced with the sorority, right? Things like that. So God wanted me to come away from that, not because he's going to bring that back, but because he said, I never told you to do that. And if you pay attention to the deception, you will know that that's not of me, right? So he wanted to save me by having me disconnect from those things. God took me away from all of that busyness because he says, I give rest, right? In me, you will find rest. That is what I give to you. Busyness is not of God, right? Jesus rested. He went away. He went off by himself. But God gives rest to us, not anxious to and fro. I got to do this. I need another step. I got to blah, blah, blah. That's not God, right? That's anxiety, okay, if we just want to be real. So I just wanted to come up here and share that with you, and I wanted to leave you with a few thoughts. I want you to really stop and think about what it is that you ask God to do for you in your life. And if you're noticing that things are getting taken away from you, rather than pout, rather than get upset, rather than feel like, well, God's not a good father then, or he's not listening or paying attention, I want you to consider why it is that those things might be gone and ask him to tell you, right? So here I wrote, if you want to, if you're asking God for more rest, right, or more peace, it's very possible that he's going to clear your calendar, right? We don't think about it that way. We say, I want to work, I want to go here, I want to do this, and blah, 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 but God, give me rest and give me peace. It doesn't go together, right? If you ask God, to give you more faith in him, right? To learn to rely on him more. There's chances are he's going to take people out of your life, even if just temporarily. He's going to take people out of your life that you lean on and depend on. You're not having a good day and you go right to Sally. You might have to take a little bit of a break from Sally, right? So that you can speak to your Father. If you want to ask God, for provision, or if you want to ask him to remove bitterness from your heart, or if you want to ask him to teach you how to forgive, whatever it is, I won't say don't question his methods, because it's well within your right to say, God, I don't understand, please help me, right? And he will tell you. But be mindful that sometimes his methods don't include just handing you something as much as it does taking away the things that are keeping you from getting what it is that you've asked for. If you want rest, you have to have your calendar cleared, right? If you want more faith, you have to take things out of your life that you rely on. All of that, right? So if you want, joy, you have to remove, or God will remove things out of your life that bring you sorrow, right? If you don't even enjoy your job, or if you've got too much stress here or there, God's not going to just keep shoving things at you and letting you have things that make you feel upset and make you feel overwhelmed and stressed out. He's going to systematically start removing that stuff so you can experience his joy. So I just wanted to tell you, take heart, make room. If God is making room in your life, take that as a sign that he hears you, he's listening, he loves you, he cares. And be mindful about becoming bitter, or resentful, or even jealous, right, of people who might be getting the things that you're asking God for. You're asking God for this, and it feels like your life's just crumbling while theirs is growing, or whatever. Be mindful of that. And a few scriptures that might be helpful to kind of study on and to think about is the one that God brought to me is Judges. 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 Judges 6, right? Chapter 6 through 8. The story of Gideon. The story of Gideon. When God was going to bring him victory, God was going to give him victory. But what God did first was take all of his humanly resources. He dwindled his army down to 300 people, simply for the reason that God said, I don't want you to say that I delivered the Midianites that unto your hands through your own works, right? I don't want you to feel like it was you that took them. I want you and everyone else to know that it was through my power and my might. And so in your life, when God starts dwindling down your provisions, when he starts dwindling down your resources, it is because he is about to show up. Hold on, pray to him, recognize what he's doing. Don't let the enemy lie to you and tell you that this is as good as it's going to get, or you gave God your yes and now your life is being destroyed and torn apart. You are being pruned. You are being made structurally sound to withstand the elements that you might not even know are coming. And God is decreasing your humanly provisions so that he can step in, right, with his supernatural abilities and provisions. And I guarantee you he can do a much better job at it than you can. That's what he had to teach me. He can do a much better job of handling and managing my life than I can, right? So I hope this blesses you. I would definitely want to stay connected. If you haven't yet, I always forget this. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, all the YouTube stuff. But also feel free to stop by my website. I think I have my link tree. My link tree is somewhere. But I got all kinds of good stuff going for y'all. I've got some free worksheets that you can download. I've got a Rise and Thrive workbook. I've got a devotional group that's coming up. It's completely free of charge. I have a small group coaching session on Rise and Thrive, right? Helping folks, or helping women, actually not folks, helping women to really recover from trauma and reclaim their identity in Christ. So that is coming up. There's only 4 seats because I want to keep it very small. It's extremely discounted because I don't want cost to be an issue. I've got a blog on there. I've got a Facebook group. So join in the ministry, Psych and Spirit Ministries, and then of course the coaching and consulting side of things come alive, coaching and transformative services. It's based on Ezekiel 37. So feel free to join anything that's going on. And remember, always, you've got this because God's got you. And I will talk to you soon.